is not a sentence, but an honour. A duty embraced by all who serve the North, even by mine own kin. The North must stand ready. Winter is coming.
Honestly, I'd kind of steer away from that line. Howdy all, I'm Adam the Renaissance Nerd, and welcome to my review of House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 1, Son for a Son. And some of you are rightfully probably asking, Adam, what the hell are you doing here talking Game of Thrones? Because you are not a Game of Thrones guy. And that is an excellent question and the truth. I'm not a Game of Thrones guy. I tried getting into it. I tried looking at the books way back when they dropped. Not my thing. Not a big fan of George R.R. Martin. Game of Thrones also it just didn't speak to me. Song of Ice and Fire just did not touch me because I am not into George's nihilistic view of the world that humanity at its root will always be a piece of shit. Not my deal. So I walked away from it, never talked about it, occasionally refer to George and his inability to finish his books, but just not into it. And then Hot D Season 1 came around, and the impossible happened. The franchise got a breath of fresh life into it because they took their time to still make a quality show. Season 1 was quality. Good acting, good casting, decent writing, outstanding production values. It was quality. Not the greatest thing in the world to me, but quality. I can objectively say that, and that is exactly why I'm here, because people said to me, Adam, you'll give an objective review. You're not going to fawn over it, and you're not going to be super negative about it. You're going to look at it right down the middle, and you're going to give us a straight take, and that's why we're here. I'm here to give you an objective, straight take on House of the Dragon Season 2, because I don't care if it's good or bad. I only care if it is mildly entertaining, and I will tell you if it is mildly entertaining as we go through the next 10 weeks of episodes. That's right. We only had one episode today because HBO Max knows, we don't need to drop 2 or 3 episodes at once because we know people are going to show up and watch this. We don't need to pad our numbers. Anyway, so here we are. We're going to go through this, and I'm simply going to give you my thoughts as we go through the episode. Now, mind you, as I've already stated, I am not a Game of Thrones guy. I know nothing, virtually nothing, about the lore. I'm about as basic as you get. I know a bunch of the basics. I know a bunch of the important notes of things, but I do not know the history. I know nothing. I do not know this book. I do not know anything about what this season is based upon. But you know what? That doesn't matter because Germ himself has said that this version is the definitive version. So I don't care what the book says. I don't have to go back and say at any point, well, the book says this, so they got it wrong. Nope, this is the definitive version. So what we're watching on screen is all that matters. Either way, I'm going to do my best. I hope you guys understand the path which I'm taking to bring this to you, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's just get started. House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 1, Son for a Son.
Fly with me. It is a command.
Would that you were the king.
Okay, let's do this. We begin essentially where last season left off, where Rhaenyra sent her sons out to rally the troops. And I'm going to harken back to everybody else's commentary in that point. You don't send your entire line out there. The fact that younger son, strong boy number 2, and I'm going to use nicknames because that's kind of what I do in my reviews. And also, I don't know all their names, honestly. They didn't stick with me. I know a few of the important ones, but I don't know strong boy number 1 and number 2. I do not know their names, so they get nicknames. Anyway, so it was kind of really dumb to send your entire line out there to the danger of the world. And strong boy number 1, who we're going to visit here, of course, he was in no danger going to see the Starks because the Starks are the Starks. They're the loyal ones. But sending strong boy number 2 to see the Baratheons and running into Aemon like that, that was the dumbest move in the world. It really was. It's careless. It's stupid. It's not good thinking, and it's weak. It's weak of a ruler not to understand that. But that was a discussion for last season. Here we are in season 2, starting off with Strong Boy number 1 visiting Stark country in the north, and we get the current Stark, Cragen, something like that, Stark, giving a nice little monologue on how important it is for his family and his people to man the wall and keep watch over the north. The watch is not a sentence. It's an honor to duty that we are proud to be a part of. And at one point he says the line. I showed you in my intro clip. He says, winter is coming. We have to guard against that. Winter's coming. I personally think that's a bad idea. Let us not hearken back to the lines that will remind people of the dismal ending to Game of Thrones. That is a very important thing. People have found enjoyment again watching Hot D. And I think it's a bad member berry to remind them that it still all leads to that. Unless somehow, some way, shape, or form, they decide to redo the original series. Let's not make people remember. Let them live in the moment. Let them live in this past, this prequel, this lore series. Let them live here. Don't remind them that winter is coming and George gave them a crap ending in the show and still hasn't finished the 5th book and will likely never even write book number 6, A Dream of Spring. Let's not do that, shall we? Just my personal opinion. Anyway, so we got Strong Boy number 1 and Stark Lad talking to each other about why it's important that they remain united. Strong Boy number 1 says, hey, listen, I'm glad you welcomed me here, just like you welcomed my ancestor, the Conqueror. And Stark goes, well, hey, listen, at least you came here. You didn't threaten me with your dragons like he did. Anyway, he reminds him that Strong Boy reminds him Stark's always been loyal. You guys have stood by us. Your father, your grandfather, they swore an oath to the king and his rightful heir. Are you going to do the same? And Stark says, yeah, we're not oath breakers. I got 2,000 graybeards ready to be your army. Because that's what we do. And they will fight for you, and they will happily kick some ass. And that's good. That's fine. They reach the edge of the wall, and they look over it, and Stark reminds him that even when his grandfather, or his great-grandfather and his queen came up to visit with their dragons, not even the dragons would pass beyond the wall. Because what's beyond there is death that even the great dragons fear. And while they're about to finish broing it out, it's all good. We're gonna be allies and all this stuff. Message comes, and Strong Boy number 1 now learns that his younger brother has been eaten by Vhagar and Aemond. And we're gonna cut now back to Dragonstone, where Rhaenyra is returning from her patrolling of the Stone Steps. Because her dragon has to cover the whole thing, and they don't have a lot of ships to keep it going. So she, by herself, 100 miles or kilometers, whatever. She does the whole route by herself. She comes in, she's tired, she needs a bath. But here comes Daemon, and I want to say right now, Matt Smith keeps it going. He is probably the best thing in this show because Matt Smith is awesome. He brings true gravitas that every show needs, an anchor, somebody that gives you a presence, and Matt Smith brings presence as Daemon Targaryen, and he continues it in this season, walks up to Rhaenyra, says, hey, ho, get back on your dragon. We're going back to King's Landing right now to kill Vhagar and Aemond, because between the two of us and our dragons, we can kill, I think he calls her the hoary bitch, something like that, and she says, no, I'm tired from my 100-mile patrol. I need a bath. And now we get at the whole exchange where we learn, and this is kind of why I say the show has decent writing. I may think the pacing is overall a little too slow, but the writing is solid because in this nice little exchange between them, you get proper exposition, proper information dump, and you don't feel like it was just thrown at you like in many other current day shows. We learn between their exchanges that Rhaenyra is gone. She is effed off to look for the remains of her son because, as Rhaenyra puts it, she's not going to accept that he's dead until she has the corpse, because I didn't accept my daughter, your former wife, was dead until I saw her remains myself. So she's going to mourn, and you have to accept that she's going to mourn, and you can't do anything until she comes back and commands it. Now, Daemon doesn't like that. He looks her in the eye and says, well, listen, Strong Boy the Second probably wouldn't have died if you had aced Aegon and Alicent and the rest of them when you broke free of your imprisonment back in King's Landing during the coronation. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is the show doubling down on that moment or trying to do a mea culpa for it, because we all remember last season where she broke free, killed hundreds of the small folk, the normal folk, the farm folk during the coronation, but then didn't gank Aegon and Alicent and others who were on the stage. Didn't do it, and it was told to us she couldn't visit upon the horror of losing a child on another mother. She couldn't do that. Everybody pushed back on that as one of the weakest moments of last season, and I can't tell because she looks at him and just kind of smirks and doesn't have a rebuttal until he says, we're going out. And she says, no, we won't, because you're not. If only you were the king, you could command it. You can't. So bye. I'm gonna go take a bath. So I don't know if the show is kind of saying we're backing her up on her choice not to do that, or if we're actually gonna say, she was retarded for not ending the war before it started right there. I don't know. You let me know what you think. I honestly don't know. Anyway, now we're going to jump out to the docks of Dragonstone, where Corlys is going to go in there and inspect the repairs on his personal flagship. And this whole conversation right here, it's the only time we see Corlys for the whole episode. He's talking to this big, bald black dude who is the main shipwright, apparently, or at least maybe his first mate. I'm not sure. But I know one thing that is for damn sure. This dude is his bastard. This dude, Alan, is his bastard. It's why he's bald, so you can't see the white dreads. It's why when he says to him, I heard you're the one that pulled me out of the water when I was wounded. And Alan will stop. He takes a look and says, it was my duty, my lord. That's simple. And walks off to keep monitoring the repairs. And then Corlys looks really forlorn. That's his bastard right there. I don't know if that's going to come into play later, but that's the significance of this, that Corlys does have another son, not the gay one who ran off to, live a life of abandon and funness with his pillow biter buddy. They're off gone. This guy is a son, is a pure-blooded Valyrian, but he's a bastard, and we know how bastards work in this world. They are not accepted. So that we'll see how that plays out the rest of the season. I don't know, but that's why he's bald. Because it hides his white hair, because that would signify him as a Valyrian. And at the same time, that's why you feel the tension between them. Right. Now, during all of this, we got a quick shot of Rhaenyra looking for her son's remains. That's all you need to know, that she is out there looking forward, true to what Rhaenyra said. Anyway, now we go back to King's Landing. And in King's Landing, we get our first look at Aegon being king. He seems really chipper. He seems very excited to be ruler. In fact, he's looking for his son. He wants to take him to small council. And the most important thing, I think, in this scene right now is his sister. I think it was Elena is his sister, his wife, his sister. She doesn't want him to interrupt the boys' normal stuff. And at the same time, she keeps muttering about the rats. I know rats are a big thing. They're going to be a big thing. People keep saying they're going to be a big thing, people who know the lore. And it definitely is a thing in this episode, because the idea of the rats lead to something, but we'll get to it at the end of the episode. Either way, he doesn't care what she wants. He wants the boy because he says, he needs to learn how to be a king. And for a minute here, you think that maybe Aegon is going to take being king seriously. But when we get to small council, we're going to see, no, he has no idea what to do. And he is gonna, I think we're gonna, this whole episode is it's setting the stage for a lot of things. And I can accept that. That's why it has slow pacing, why not a lot of things happen. It's setting stuff. And throughout Aegon's experiences in this episode, we're going to see that he is both not serious as a king, but at the same time will already be bristling at being controlled by others, when being manipulated by others, because he's not a smart one. He's not Aemond, who is smart. Right. So we will cut to Alicent real quick, who, this picture says 1,000 words. Somebody's dining at the buffet. It's Sir Criston Cole, And we now get the confirmation, which we all kind of knew would be coming from season 1, that now that Viserys is dead, there's wham bam, thank you ma'am, between Sir Criston Cole, now Lord of the Night's Watch, and Alicent, the Dowager Queen. She's going to tell him we can't do this anymore, which implies stuff's been going on. Maybe even before Viserys died. I don't know. Can't say. Won't speculate, because all that matters is the here and now. And then we're going to be off to the Small Council. At the Small Council, we're going to breeze through this because the essential part of this is Aegon arrives and they're talking war. You got Otto trying to lay out the land of what's going on here and there, what they need to do. But then here comes Aegon with his kid and basically treats it like daycare, where the other members of the Small Council need to take care of his kid or amuse him and the kid. And after a bit of back and forth, after he wants the Lannister to play horsey for the kid, they convince him to have the child go so they can talk war. And it's essentially, as I said before a moment ago, this is all about Aegon not being serious. He because now, even when left to talk the business of war, he says, screw it, let's just take the dragons out and burn everything. Let's just go burn everything. Whatever. It'll show my might. Not understanding that war is more than just dropping the dragon nukes. That you still need soldiers to hold territory. That you need to win the hearts and minds. And that by launching a gigantic attack that will literally light the land aflame, you don't do that. And everybody tries to impart this to him. And he doesn't react well to it. You can see he's already bubbling beneath the surface. And Alicent has a very big problem with it because she knows that she's losing control of him. Because she feels, as we're going to learn later, that Otto is undermining her control over him. But we'll get to that when they have their little sit down later on. Meanwhile, after the Small Council is over, the foot fetish guy corners Alicent and wants to remind her that he's cleared out all the White Worm spies from last season. And then he's got a whole new bunch of people in place. And listen, it's very clear at this point that Alicent really hates dealing with foot fetish guy. He sets her off completely. And what we've got here is she knows he's a necessary evil because he will do all the dirty work happily as long as he can look at her feet and jerk off. That's basically it. But this guy's also scheming to be the hand, as we're going to come back to later. He wants to be the next hand. It's goddamn obvious when he talks to Aegon later on. But they have a little conversation, and Alicent doesn't like us. We're going to see then Alicent in her bathing chambers washing with all these new faces surrounding her. And she knows that they're reporting directly to foot fetish. And to me, that's what this scene is translated as. It bothers her massively, and she can't handle it. So she kicks everybody out to clean herself because she feels dirty. And she doesn't just feel dirty for them looking at her, as I see it. She feels dirty about the whole situation because she didn't want the war to start like this. She wanted a quick bending of the knee where everybody lived, and there was no massive conflagration of armies clashing and dragons fighting. And to her, Aemond killing Strongboy number 2 has now pushed us so far down that there's no turning back. And Otto's going to tell her it was always going to go this way. But we'll get to that. But now, let's look at Rhaenyra. Let's bring Rhaenyra back into the show for just a moment and have her get confirmed what we all already knew. Storytelling is truly an art form, whether it's on the page or on the screen. Show don't tell is one of the most important lessons any storyteller must learn. Took me a long time to properly do show don't tell. And those involved with this series, with this franchise, with House of the Dragon, they can do show don't tell. Everything Rhaenyra in this episode is masterfully done with show don't tell. She utters all of one word, maybe two, this entire episode. And Emma D'Arcy, who listen, I liked Millie Alcock better as Rhaenyra, but Emma D'Arcy right here, she nails it. She does nail it. And that's why I say the acting in this show is top notch. They convey everything you need through emoting, not blabbering, blah, 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 all over the place. No vomiting of exposition. Because here we have Rhaenyra. She's looking for the remains of Strongboy number 2. And she comes upon a bunch of fishermen and she hears, "We've got remains of a dragon here." And she goes down there. As soon as they see an alive dragon, they head for the hills. She hops down, walks over, and as she pulls back the net, there it is, a dragon wing. And there is the remains of her son's clothing. And as she pulls it up to herself, completely breaks down. Now, I can totally appreciate this performance. And I can appreciate the emphasis on how broken and sad and devastated she is. The problem here is, I still feel nothing for Rhaenyra as a character. I think Rhaenyra is a horrible person. She's terrible. She lies, cheats, and steals to win. Even though the Iron Throne is her birthright, she was not passed over because we know from last season Viserys wasn't talking about Aegon taking the throne when Alicent heard, and he was talking about the dream, the vision of A Song of Ice and Fire. She still is horrible, and she's always done horrible things. She lies to people's faces. She ruins people's lives. And I know the show is trying to evoke some sort of connection to her with us. We're trying to feel a mother's loss, trying to feel her grief, her agony. But despite the very well portrayed agony here, I still dislike her immensely. And I feel nothing for her. And I think maybe I probably should have mentioned earlier, I'm not either Team Green or Team Black. I'm neither. I hate all these people. I think they're all vile, disgusting, terrible people. I'll root for characters being cool and doing cool shit, primarily on both sides with Daemon and Aemond. I'll root for them being horrible badasses, but I hate both Team Black and Team Green. I hate them both. They're all horrible people who do horrible things, and Rhaenyra is chief horrible person on her side. I'm not saying she deserves this. I'm just saying I am not connecting with her, and this doesn't make me like her. In fact, I'll harken back to what I said earlier. This is her own goddamn fault. You don't send your kids out into the wilds like this. I don't care if they're on Dragonback, because guess what? There was somebody who had a bigger effing dragon. Plain and simple. Anyway, so that's this scene in a nutshell. Emma D'Arcy, total perfect show don't tell. She emotes beautifully. And yes, I'm not going to play her damn pronoun game. Not doing that. She emotes perfectly, and then we shift. Back at King's Landing, it is time for Aegon to hold court. Now, this is a fun little thing, and I appreciate this little bit because this is what a ruler does. You play any kind of strategy game, grand strategy game where you are any kind of ruler, and they'll have holding court mechanics built in. And you sit there and you hear the petitions of the little people. It's so you're connected to your subjects, and you know their pain, you know their desires, and they're able to then look upon you as a benevolent ruler. Now, Aegon comes in, and there's a running gag for the whole rest of the show where he's in his little page boys that are with him, his bros. He's got a literal bro parade behind him, which is a little silly. It is a little silly. The episode loses points for that. And they hail him as already Aegon the Magnanimous. Now, he's been on the throne for a week? You don't earn a title in a week. You just don't. And even he realizes that because he says magnanimous, he shoots a look at his boys, and they go, He goes up there on the Iron Throne. Otto is there ready to help him hear the petitions. And this whole scene, we're not going to go over each individual petition. It is a scene that establishes the fact that Aegon sees this as a game right now. He likes the attention. That's what it is right here. In the previous season, he didn't want any of this. But now that he has it, he really likes being waited on. He likes having everybody fawn over him. He doesn't necessarily want to do the job correctly, though, because he doesn't understand the minutia of it. But when Otto will try to explain the minutia of it, and I want to give a shout out to Rhys Ifans. Like Matt Smith, Rhys Ifans is gravitas. He is an anchor in this show, always giving an outstanding performance as Otto Hightower. Otto is going to basically embarrass him to an extent by saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to take this into account, forcing Aegon to correct himself publicly. And at one point, Aegon will override Otto's words when he goes with a petition, even though Otto doesn't want him to do it. Bottom line, this is the beginning of Aegon probably becoming a complete loose cannon because he doesn't really want to do the job aside from being the public spectacle of king. But at the same time, he still wants to do it his way. He wants to unleash the dragons. He wants to be loved by the people for hearing their pleas and giving them what they want. And he wants to have the party. He wants the whole festivity aspect of it. He wants the whole prestige of being king. He wants all the pomp and no circumstance, if you want to look at it like that. Otto knows that he has a problem. We now go to Alicent waiting for Otto in his office, and they have their little sit-down that I alluded to earlier. She's not happy. She says, you're undermining me. Aegon's an idiot, and I'm already losing control of him. And Aemond, well, Aemond is Aemond. He doesn't want to listen to me either. It's his fault we're in this mess. And I cannot have you undermining me because we are now... I tried my best to not have us go down this path of war, but here we are. And if I'm going to be on the council, you can't treat me like a woman, basically. Otto then says, listen, I didn't see it that way, but you have to understand. He doesn't come out and say it, but we can read between the lines. You're in a man's world here, and the war and the dragons, everything that's about to happen was going to happen no matter what. Aemond just kind of, accelerated the process by killing Strongboy number 2. Meanwhile, Aegon is leaving his petitioning hearings, and he's cornered by Foot Fetish. And Foot Fetish now makes his play for hand. That's what this is right here. Doesn't matter. Anything else, nothing else matters. He's making his play for hand by reminding him that you are now under the yoke of a hand that has served 3 kings. You need to be your own man, and I'm ready to be your man because you need to do things your way. Don't listen to others. And Aegon's hearing this. Aegon is totally hearing this. And this is now, as I see it, again, I don't know the lore. I don't know what's going to happen. This looks like the seeds being planted for Aegon becoming a loose cannon and basically gutting all his other advisors and will be surrounded by others. He doesn't want to be manipulated by Otto and his mother, but he will end up being manipulated, I think, by Foot Fetish here. He also thinks that Aemond is under his control, but Aemond is not under his control because Aemond always wants his throne. Because last season we know that Aemond considers himself the more able king. He's a scholar, he's a warrior, he's a strategist. He has all the makings to be a ruler, while Aegon last season would whore, do all kinds of debaucherous, degenerate shit, and doesn't care. Never cared. Anyway, so that's setting the stage for Aegon ditching his previous manipulators, only to be manipulated by others. Meanwhile, at the stone steps, the blockade intercepts a ship, which is what it's supposed to do. I do like this little moment of showing us, look, strategy can be effective when implemented properly. I appreciate that. Good job, show. We basically find out that the White Worm escaped the assassination attempt by Foot Fetish back in season 1, and now she's been captured. Basically, now she is in Daemon's clutches. And Daemon reminds her that she's a traitor because she helped the Hightowers. And she tries to run through this whole thing. I'm just a businesswoman. I was just working with my customer, and the Hightowers paid well. But Daemon doesn't want to hear that because here's kind of Daemon's story for this episode. He's trying to lay the blame for the loss of Strongboy number 2 at everybody else's feet except for his and Rhaenyra's decision to even send them out in the first place. It's Daemon passing the buck, honestly. He's passing the buck. So he's trying to blame everybody. He's trying to blame her, calls her a traitor, and says, fine, you're going to go hang out in the dungeon. And when he does it again, he leaves and he gets cornered by twin Night's Watch who sided with them, and he starts to blame him. He's like, you had a chance to kill Aegon, but you didn't. Just like the White Worm had a chance to turn him over and she didn't. She excused herself. Oh, he was always going to go back. But no, Daemon thinks that everybody is to blame except for him and Rhaenyra in the death of Strongboy number 2. And there's no way around it. They're all at fault. Every last one of them are at fault because they all were too busy with their own machinations than keeping track of the small details that mattered. Plain and simple. Either way, so while they're having their argument and Daemon's basically dressing him down, we hear a roar. Here comes Rhaenyra. She's finally back now that she's gotten confirmation of the death of her son. Show don't tell. Once again, excellent show don't tell. Here comes Rhaenyra. She walks into her war council. And I got to say, I dig the table that they use for the war council. That's a very cool piece of prop right there. She walks around. She has a moment close up with Daemon. Nothing much is said. She goes around. She is still, she's in shock now. This is shock. She goes around to the head of the table. They're waiting to hear from her. And all she says is, a son for a son. And then leaves. Then leaves to go get cleaned up. She's been roaming around for a week probably. She probably smells. So she needs a bath. And now that Daemon actually has the command, son for son. I mean, Daemon's been pushing son for a son for the entire episode. Now he's been given the command, so he's going to swing into action. He's going to go visit the White Worm and squeeze her for all information on the High Towers and King's Landing and how she got her information to them in and out of the palace. So Daemon's about to do a Daemon thing. We now, show don't tell again. Good show don't tell again. Here comes Strongboy number 1. He's going to deliver the report that he got the Starks and other stuff, but he breaks down and has an emotional moment with his mother over the death of his brother. You feel it. The emotion is there. It's gripping you. It's this and that. But I still feel no pity. I feel nothing. I can objectively appreciate the well-performed scene. But I feel nothing for these characters. I feel nothing. They're dumb. They're stupid. And he even knows he's a bastard. He knows he's living a lie. Anywho, now the show don't tell continues though because we get this whole kind of mourning scene. It's you can't have a true funeral because there's nothing left of Strongboy number 2's body. So everybody's going to be on a cliff where they're going to basically do a mini pyre type of thing where they throw his cloth into the flame. And it's going to jump back and forth between Alicent in the Church of the Seven back at King's Landing, sending her thoughts and prayers, as it were, out there for everybody that's died in all of these recent weeks. And you feel the power. The soundtrack, the score is well done. The sorrowful, lilting tone back and forth. The Alicent very quiet in her for this person, for that person, and everybody else back at Dragonstone openly being sad and crying and supporting each other. It's a fantastically well displayed scene, done very well. Yet we are reminded, or I'm reminded, maybe not you, but I am reminded as I look at all these characters, each and every one of them is to blame. Rhaenyra, Daemon, everybody involved there, they made bad decisions. We can even say, and Rhaenyra, she didn't gank him when he had a chance. Alicent has done nothing. I didn't mention it during her conversation with Otto, but I can mention it here. She's done nothing but scheme and plan to get her son on the throne. Get her line on the throne, as Otto has, through her. She's done nothing but do that. And all because she felt spurned by being forced to do duty. And what did duty get her? A loveless marriage, essentially emotional abuse by everybody, and no freedom to behave as she ever wished. And now she is clawed for that freedom. But I still don't feel for her. I understand that she's been screwed over. And I can appreciate that she's been screwed over. But what's going to happen tonight in the Keep, in King's Landing? She started it because she schemed. And that's why it's interesting. The final frame is going to be her in the show. Because I wonder if she's going to realize that she's as much at fault as anybody in the horrible things that are going to happen. So this whole scene ends, and now Daemon's going to do a Daemon thing, and it's going to be reminded that Daemon still holds serious power back at King's Landing.
Commander.
Never gone for long. I'm told you bear a mislike for the High Towers.
Fuck the High Towers.
Final moments of the episode, and these final minutes here move really quick, and I really wish the entire episode had moved this quickly instead of plotting through everybody's current moment relationship status. I really wish it had moved this quickly because it would have been a tighter episode if these events had moved along faster. And even though it moves quickly, it still plods at the last minute. They stop to plod with a little bit of unnecessary show don't tell. There is such a thing as too much show and not enough. Let's get to it. So let us get to it. Daemon arrives at King's Landing in secret, and he goes straight to a gate where one of his good old gold cloaks find him, and the guy comes up and says, "Commander." And right there, that tells you that Daemon still holds power in King's Landing, and it may come into play at some point. He may, at some point down the road, snap his fingers, and the gold cloaks turn on on Alicent and her on the Greens. Turn on the Greens. I'm still working on my terminology here. Give me a break. Anywho, he saw it in the clip. He asked him, how do you feel about the High Towers? F the High Towers. And I must take a moment, since it's my first time talking about all this. I do not appreciate F-bombs in these types of shows. I think dropping F-bombs is an unnecessary bit of writing. It's writing meant to make you feel edgy when it's just unnecessary. And that if there is a fault to the writing in this show, it's the cursing. The cursing is unnecessary. It really is. There's better ways to do it. There's more creative ways to do it than just drop an F-bomb. My simple opinion. You can agree with it or not. Either way, so Daemon buys his way into the keep, into King's Landing, and I have to wonder. There's been, since last season, I mentioned it earlier, a lot of people who are in the know saying the rats. Is this the rats? Is this what has been alluding to the rats the whole time? The fact that Daemon now hires the rat catcher to work with his gold cloak dude to go assassinate what's supposed to be Aemond. They're supposed to go in there and assassinate Aemond. That's why Gold Cloak Guy's going, because Aemond is a badass, and they need to be able to take him on and take him out in an outnumbered situation. After some, bargaining and this and that, Daemon hires the guy. They go in there. While the scheming is going on outside, we're going to get to see a little bit of Aemond having a little bit of strategy session with Criston Cole. And here's the thing. Cole and Aemond, they get it. As opposed to Aegon and some of the others, they understand how this war needs to be waged. You start at a point, you build momentum, you build your forces, and you strategically use the dragons. You don't just go in and drop the nuke and think, hey, it's over. They get it as they're planning. And it's an interesting give and take about how they understand the motivations of everybody. And Aemond even says at one point, as he's breaking down how everybody feels, Aegon's an idiot, Otto is stuck in his old ways, and my mother, Alicent, she is weak because she still holds feeling for our enemies. And that's why she will always lose, because she can't go for the jugular. I'm ready to go for the jugular. And as he says that, here comes Otto. Otto takes a walk in. This is the fallout from his conversation with Alicent, who wants him to not have wanton destruction. She finally accepts that, yes, we're ready to, I understand we have to go to war, but does it have to be with so much careless damage and destruction and everything? And Otto says, no, it doesn't. So he's going in here now to try and temper the blade that is Aemond, acknowledging the fact that, dude, you and Vhagar, you are the most powerful weapon in the world that we know of right now. There's no around that. But you have to understand, we have to take this one step at a time. You're not an idiot like your brother. Your brother is reckless, he's stupid, and he will act on impulse. But you won't. And I need you to just keep it in check for a little bit longer, and then you'll get your chance to do what you want to do, destroy your enemies. But don't do it recklessly. And Aemond tries to say, hey, listen, I'm doing it for my house, my king, my people. Well, we know that Aemon wants to be king, and I'm sure there's going to be an attempt at some point in this season where he maybe tries to seize power. I don't see how it can't happen. He wants that power. So now Ratcatcher and Goldcloak enter the keep. We're going to skip to them in the keep. While they're in the keep, once they get up to inside, they go through the Iron Throne room, and we get a glimpse of drunk Aegon and his boys, his bros, joking about everything. Oh, I'm magnanimous. I'm the big dragon cock and all this kind of shit. They are effing around. And it shows you once again, Aegon is not serious. He thinks it's a game. While everybody else is actually making sure that they're going to win this war. He's just, I'm drinking on the Iron Throne. I'm drinking on the Iron Throne with my boys. Ha ha! The Ratcatcher and Goldcloak make their way, after a little confrontation with each other, a little bit back and forth. Oh, you better do it. I'm going to kill you, says Goldcloak. They get up to the royal section of the keep and cut into the chase. After wandering around a little bit, they find Elena and the bedroom of the children. They haven't found Aemon. They go in through Aemon's quarters, but he's gone. This is after him, Otto, and Cole are gone. They go into the children's bedroom, and Ratcatcher is holding Elena hostage. Goldcloak takes her offer to take the necklace and go, but doesn't take the offer to let them live because Ratcatcher says there is Aegon's heir. We can't find Aemon, but I think that'll count for son for a son. And after a moment of indecision, because apparently the son and the daughter look so alike that they can't tell the difference, they basically force Elena to give him up, and she gives him up. She just points right at it, says there is, because she has seen this coming. She was talking about the rats, and I asked the question, is this what the rats meant in last season? That the Ratcatcher would sneak into the baby's bedchamber, and with the Goldcloak, now they gank the kid. You see him, and they pull out, but you hear the action. You hear the slaughter, the murder, the assassination of the kid, while Elena grabs the other one and just beats feet. And she wanders through the palace until she comes to Alicent's room. And I mentioned this earlier. I was going to come back to it. As she enters Alicent's room, Alicent is riding Cole all the way to Happy Town. That's where Cole was told to go resume his post. Well, he actually had Alicent get on his post. And Alicent is pleasing herself. And that's a major thing I want to talk about now real briefly as we close out here. Last season, there were a lot of moments shown that Alicent found no pleasure in sex. She found no pleasure. It was simply her duty to provide heirs. And now that she is free of that duty, she has found pleasure. She is grabbed on it and she wants to, even though she keeps trying to push it away, she keeps coming back to it. Earlier in the episode, we can't do this anymore. Oh, we're going to do it all night long. And it's an important step of Alicent that she is not as virtuous as she pretends to be. She is as base-driven and desire and harbors desires as much as everybody else. But now her desires may have caught up with her, because here comes Elena, and Elena because she kind of lives in another world. She's autistic. Let's just say she's autistic. She's in a slightly out of sync with the rest of the world. She doesn't even bat an eye that she walked on her mom banging Cole, and Alicent's going, what's wrong? The boy is dead. And the final shot is Alicent right there. And it all started with her. Everything started with her making the move. That has now led to all her duty becoming undone, because now Aegon doesn't have a male heir. He has a daughter, just like Viserys had Rhaenyra. All she's done to get her son on the throne has ended up with all her duty, all her desire to get a line set in place undone in an instant. So there you go. And we move on to episode 2 next week.
What's happened?
They killed the boy.
Okay, 1 episode down, 9 to go. How do I feel about this? Overall, I think you can understand my feelings throughout the whole episode. Well acted. Production value, very high. Cast remains solid and strong. It's essentially the same cast as last season. We haven't really had that many new, powerful additions made. It's a well-made show. Very slow, though. The pacing in this episode was very, very slow, and it is a setup episode. They're putting pieces into play that will culminate in what we're hoping is the battle. But I have to say, this is kind of the hallmark of Germ. Germ will do tons and tons of setup, and the payoff will it's a 50-50 on payoff from what I understand. It'll either be banger or it'll be bummer. Or it'll be very quick and brief and not be everything you wanted it to be. I don't know if the assassination of the princeling here was everything everybody thought it was going to be, because it kind of just happens. It's just there. And if this was the buildup of the rats, what do the rats mean? Because I don't know if the rats are going to mean something else. I didn't feel the tension. I felt no tension when Ratcatcher and Goldcloak are in the room, because I somebody was going to die. I didn't think it was going to be Aemond, but I knew somebody was going to die. They didn't get all the way up into the royal chambers and have somebody not die. And I guess that's maybe one of the fatal flaws of this whole thing, is that we know everybody's going to die at some point. There is no happy ending in sight when it comes to a Germ story. People are going to be miserable. Humanity is going to be shown in its worst possible form, and we're not really, at least I'm not really rooting for anybody. I don't want any of these characters to really win. I want to see some badass moments from, as I said before, from Daemon and from Aemond, but I don't really like these people. And I frankly want them all to just go away, because they're not fighting for anything pure. They're all fighting for their own miserable desires. All of them claim, I'm doing this for the realm, I'm doing this for that. No, they're doing it for themselves. And while that is good character work, a good character play, because I'm not endeared to any of these characters, I'm not drawn in. I'm basically sitting back and just watching a well-produced show, but to me there's no feeling. But that doesn't mean it wasn't, as I said, well done. It hits all the proper marks. Well written, well performed, well cast, production value high, score good. Although it still is a little too dark in moments. That is a problem from last season. They haven't quite addressed yet. Still a little too dark in moments. Hopefully they did fix the whole too dark thing going forward. Either way, the show is off to a good start. This isn't a giant bummer. I didn't sense any major agenda issues woven in here. I don't know if they had their little post House of the Dragon discussions after the episode. I don't know if they did. All I know is I just watched the show. It was okay. It wasn't great. It was okay. And I think as long as they maintain what I've laid out here as good acting, good performances, good show don't tell. I can't stress that enough. The show does excellent show don't tell. They will probably roll on to a successful season, and it's already been renewed for a season 3, so we're guaranteed another now 19 episodes in total. Likely will probably end with season 3 is my guess. Then again, I don't know the story. I don't know how much more of the story there is left to tell. So we'll see. Either way, there we are. I hope you guys enjoyed my perspective, my take on how I approached this. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next Monday with episode 2. Until then, take it easy. Have a good night or day wherever you may be. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Check out my gaming channel at Renaissance Nerd Arcade, and follow me on X Twitter under @TheRedNerd. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.